The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead in the crowded superstore, casting a harsh glow on the linoleum floor. Daniel Harper pushed his cart through the aisles, his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, perched in the seat, swinging her legs. Her sneakers thumped rhythmically against the cart's metal frame. Daniel, a single dad and Army veteran, kept one eye on her and the other on the grocery list scrawled on the back of an envelope. His VA pension stretched thin, and every penny counted. He scanned the shelves for the cheapest brand of cereal, muttering under his breath about rising prices. Lily pointed at a box with a cartoon tiger. "Can we get that one, Daddy?" "Not today, kiddo," Daniel said, ruffling her hair. "We're sticking to the basics." As they rounded the corner into the canned goods aisle, a commotion erupted near the front of the store. Raised voices cut through the hum of shoppers. Daniel's instincts, honed by years in combat zones, kicked in. He slowed the cart, his body tensing, eyes narrowing as he assessed the situation. A small crowd had gathered near the checkout lanes. 2 security guards stood over a woman, their postures aggressive, hands on their belts like they were auditioning for a cop drama. The woman, dressed in a plain hoodie and jeans, stood with her arms crossed, her face calm but defiant. "You can't just walk out with unpaid items, ma'am," one guard barked, holding up his small bag of groceries. "That's theft." "I told you," the woman said, her voice steady, "I'm not stealing. I paid for everything. Check the receipt." The second guard scoffed, waving a crumpled piece of paper. "This doesn't prove anything. You're coming with us." Daniel edged closer, Lily's curious eyes peering over the cart. He didn't like getting involved in other people's buzziness. A life had taught him to keep his head down, but something about the scene felt off. The woman wasn't flustered or defensive like most caught shoplifters. She stood tall, her gaze unwavering, like someone who knew the game and wasn't playing it. Daniel had seen that look before, in soldiers who'd faced worse than overzealous rent-a-cops. The crowd murmured, "Phone's already out, recording the spectacle." A teenage cashier whispered to her coworker, "They're gonna call the real cops." Daniel's jaw tightened. He dealt with enough petty authority in his life via bureaucrats at the VA, MPs with too much ego. He didn't trust systems to sort themselves out. "Stay here, Lily," he said, parking the cart by a display of canned beans. She nodded, clutching her stuffed bunny. Daniel approached the group, keeping his hands visible, his tone even. "Hey, what's going on here?" The first guard, a stocky guy with a buzz cut, barely glanced at him. "None of your business, pal. Move along." "I'm just asking," Daniel said, his voice low but firm. "Looks like you're giving her a hard time. She says she paid." "Why not check the cameras?" The woman's eyes flicked toward him, assessing. She didn't smile, but there was a flicker of appreciation in her expression. The second guard, taller and leaner, stepped forward, puffing out his chest. "You wanna get involved? We got procedures." "She's detained until the police sort it out." "Detained?" the woman said, raising an eyebrow. "You're not cops. You're mall security with the power trip." The crowd snickered, and the tall guard's face reddened. "Keep talking, lady." "You're making it worse." Daniel's gut churned. He'd seen this before, real people in uniforms throwing their weight around because they could. He glanced at the woman's grocery bag. A loaf of bread, a jar of peanut butter, some apples, hardly the haul of a master thief. "Look," he said, stepping closer, "if she says she paid, at least check the receipt against the register. Takes 2 minutes." The stocky guard sneered. "What are you, her lawyer?" "Back off, or you're next." Daniel didn't flinch. He'd stared down worse threats in Fallujah. "I'm just saying, you're making a scene over nothing. You're not even asking the right questions." The woman tilted her head slightly, studying him now. "It's fine," she said, her voice calm but edged with authority. "Let them call the police. I'm happy to wait." Something in her tone clicked for Daniel. She wasn't just confident, as she was in control. He'd heard that cadence before, from officers who knew they held the upper hand. Before he could say more, sirens wailed outside, and 2 uniformed officers pushed through the store's glass doors. The crowd parted, phones still recording. The lead officer, a wiry man with a graying mustache, approached. "What's the situation?" The tall guard jumped in, pointing at the woman, "Caught her shoplifting." "Tried to walk out with this." He held up the bag triumphantly. The woman sighed, reaching into her pocket. The guards tensed, but she only pulled out the wallet and flipped it open. A badge gleamed under the fluorescent lights. "Captain Elena Torres, Precinct 14. She said, her voice cutting through the noise like a blade. "I paid for my groceries. Receipts in the bag. You can check the cameras, the register, or call my station if you want to waste more of everyone's time." The officers froze. The guards' faces drained of color. The crowd's murmurs turned to gasps, and Daniel couldn't help but smirk. He'd called Ida. She wasn't just anyone. The lead officer took the badge, inspected it, then handed it back with a nod. "Captain Torres, sorry for the mix-up. We'll verify the receipt." The stocky guard stammered. "We didn't know. You didn't ask," Torres said, her eyes cold. "You saw a woman in a hoodie and assumed." "Next time, do your job properly." Daniel watched as the officers conferred with the cashier, who quickly confirmed the payment on the register. The guards shuffled awkwardly, their bravado gone. The crowd dispersed, some still filming, others whispering about the shoplifter who turned out to be a cop. Torres turned to Danielle as the officers wrapped up. "Thanks for stepping in," she said, her tone softer now. Most people would have kept walking. Daniel shrugged, glancing back at Lily, who was watching wide-eyed from the cart. "Didn't seem right, that's all. I know what it's like to be the judged on appearances." She nodded, catching the weight in his words. "Army?" she asked, eyeing the faded tattoo on his forearm, a unit insignia from his service days. "Yeah, long time ago." "Not that long," she said with a small smile. "You've got a good kid there." Daniel glanced at Lily, who waved shyly. "She's the boss," he said, his voice warming. Torres chuckled, then sobered. "Listen, I owe you one. If you ever need anything, Precinct 14, ask for me." "Will do," Daniel said, though he doubted he'd ever take her up on it. He'd learned to rely on himself. As Torres walked away, the officers trailing her, the store returned to its usual hum. Daniel pushed the cart back to Lily, who looked up at him with big eyes. "Was that lady a police hero?" "Something like that," Daniel said, grabbing a box of the cheap cereal. "Come on, kiddo, let's get home." As they headed to the checkout, Daniel felt a flicker of something he hadn't known. Willie pride, not just for standing up, but for showing Lily what it meant to do the right thing, even when it was easier to look away. The world was messy, but sometimes, just sometimes, it made sense.